Okay, one more minute. Let me grab the key. We're playing games with Scribble. Okay, Storm 5 on the dot. Melanie, take it over.
Sure. My pleasure. Go ahead and share my screen here. Actually, with all this up here, I can't see my... There we go. All right. My name is Melanie Stone. I also go by the Mistress of the Dorkness, and I was asked to come present on the annual survey today that's put on by AUGI, which, by the way, AUGI is just a word, not an acronym. We are now just AUGI by name, and I believe free to do business with many other engineering design firms. Today, I'm going to start off by just describing the, how the heck do I hide this? There we go. Describing the type of information that I collect in the salary survey every year. It runs for a couple months in the summer, and then the results are published in AUGI World magazine in September. Then after I talk about the type of data we collect and report on, I will briefly review some of the FAQs. But at the beginning of each article every year, I address the FAQs then, so don't feel committed to remembering it. I try and refresh everybody's memory every year. I'll talk about some of the factors that impact pay, show a couple samples from some of our charts from last year, talk about where we would like to go in the future, remind everybody how they can participate themselves this year, and if we have time at the end, open it up for questions. So, the topics we cover, it's not just salary. It's anything about, workplace health, size, location, specialties, and changes your company might make during the year, good and bad, that can indicate health of an industry or stress in an industry. And then at the end of the survey, I always like to tack on a couple hot topics, whether it's technology changes or people being affected by recessions or pandemics and things like that. And let's see, next, the FAQs. One of the questions I get asked the most, is it really anonymous? Yes, it is. This is run through SurveyMonkey. There is no link between SurveyMonkey and your AUGI member ID. There is no verification. It is just purely one standalone piece of data that is not tied to your AUGI account in any way, shape, or form. What about the cost of living differences? Yes, that is a shortcoming of having a format like a magazine. You can't break down by zip code. What an architect makes in New York or LA versus what an architect makes in rural Nebraska are going to be vastly different. I know that, but we do have, some breakdowns, like whether you're urban, suburban, rural, just so you get the idea of the scope of pay difference between those types of settings. But I also link to 3 or 4 other sites where you can go to get cost of living differences between cities. The only difference with those sites, they're not going to have job titles and industry breakdowns as granular as what this survey does. So you just sort of have to collate data from all those to get a really accurate number. But at least looking at these charts, you can tell the difference between them, like whether a person with 2 years experience versus a person with 10 years experience. So you can tell a little bit of scope. How important is education in relation to pay? Not very. The chart that I put for education and pay is only for people with less than 5 years of experience, because people with more than 5 years of experience, their pay tends to even out based on their industry expertise and not their where they went to school. So it's nice to know, yes, you can get a leg up early in your career, but later on, the education is just not as important as studying a trade. And there's also the speculation. People are artificially inflating their pay to make employers look bad. So I do audit the pay every year. There are people who try and slip in $2 million, $1 million salaries with an associate's degree in Ohio, and those do not make it into the results. People may try and slant the pay, but it doesn't work. They can't get it past me. So what does pay include? All of these charts, when they say the salary, it includes a 40-hour week that would include bonuses, but not overtime. So it gives a good look at the compensation, but if you're working 50 hours a week, obviously you're going to be making more than what's in here if you are paid overtime, because that is not included in these. And something we're all familiar with, if I do more than one job, why can't I pick more than one job title? I get it. We all do like 10 different jobs, and they should be paying us for that, but they don't. The 2/3 of the industry that has an HR department, at least I can say with confidence, they're not paying you based on what you do. They're paying you based on what you are called in their human resources database. And I try to do regular surveys on the job titles to sort of keep it relevant. So we've added and dropped different job titles over the years based on what's most common among people. Obviously, there's differences between different companies, but I try and keep a pulse on it so we can capture as many people as possible. Last but not least, if you got laid off, can you still take the survey? Yes. Please take the survey. Our expectation is that you'll go in, you'll take the survey with the data from your last employment, and that's still relevant because it's still telling us how that employer in that industry with that job title valued that. And then later on in the survey, there are questions about any job changes you've experienced in the past year, whether you got laid off or furloughed and things like that. So we can still use your data and still reflect how layoffs are going in the industry. So you'll have to pardon my chart here. I kind of made this one last minute, but I talked about auditing the data to make sure that people aren't skewing the numbers. So I grabbed a standard normal distribution graph off the internet. And for the most part, the salaries that are submitted in this survey line up with a curve of normal distribution, as you would expect. But every single year, our graph has spikes. We have a massive spike at the low end of the scale and a massive spike at the high end of the scale. And anything that falls more than 1.5 points outside of the range of normal distribution gets excluded from the survey. So we can rest assured that nobody is doing any major messing with my data. Okay, here are the big independent factors that can impact wages. How long you've been in the field. We already talked about education. That only really affects you early on in your career. What type of location you're in, whether you're in a city or the country, and how big your company is. Larger companies pay more money. It's a sizable difference, unfortunately. What your job title is, what HR calls you, what major industry you work in, as well as what those subspecialties and market segments are. And you can tell the more specialized markets get, the more niche, the fewer people that are in it, the higher the wages. I've just grabbed a few charts from last year's. We can see pay by work location, average pay by education level, average designer salary, because designer is the most common job title in the survey. So every year I dedicate one page just to building a profile of the designer. How much education does the average designer have? What size company? What field? How old are they? Just to give you a picture of like the most common member taking the survey. And then average pay by field and industry. Oh, I also show participation by survey, and normally every year architecture is the biggest major industry. Last year, architecture was 23% of the survey, but civil surveying and GIS was 21%. That was a pretty good showing. And I think if you guys try really hard, for the first time ever, you can maybe knock architecture out of that top spot. So what's next for the AUGI salary survey? As I said, we started the survey in 2002. So 2022 next year is going to be our 20th anniversary. We will be putting out our 20th survey this year, because one year I had 2 surveys because I wanted to move the timeline, because it used to publish in spring and I thought that was a very silly time. So I moved it to fall so people with their end of year reviews could have some fresh resources to talk to. So I'm currently writing up an RFP and trying to get funding for a salary calculator. I've included a sample one over here on the side from NACE. They've been renamed a few times over the years, but we'll have something simple where we can filter on these major factors that I showed on the prior page. NACE is great if you want to learn about education and location impacts, but they're very limited in their job titles. So we're going to build something similar to that for AUGI, and also have a calculation from the Bureau of Labor Statistics so that we can include data from past years, but make sure it's current to today's cost of living increases. So we have a really good data set, and we'll be able to drill down a lot further on more factors and still have confidence that it is something accurate. And I mentioned I build a designer profile every year, and I have trended the average designer salaries from the beginning of the AUGI salary survey, and they almost perfectly match with the Bureau of Labor Statistics cost of living increases, inflation values. So that gives us a high degree of confidence in the accuracy of the numbers over time. So how can you participate? The AUGI salary survey is opening up within the next week or two. And the number one way that we get participants is through email blasts. 90% of our click-through and our participation in the survey is a direct result of these email blasts. I send out 3 reminders spanning across about 2 months from the beginning of the survey to the end. And it's not just a nag. I'm not going to just fill up your inbox. I also put information in there, charts from last year's, links to resources on how to negotiate pay or show off your skills so that you can be recognized and rewarded for them. And, you know, obviously we ask you to participate in the survey in that, but I do try and make them useful as well. If you're not seeing the email blast from AUGI, please double check your AUGI account to make sure if you've changed companies or switched email providers that you're still getting it. Have any issues, contact membership at AUGI. That's Giselle Howe. She will help anybody out and make sure their account gets fixed. And also check your email subscriptions to make sure that you have checked the box to receive the bulletins. In addition to the email blast, there will also be a banner on the homepage of augi.com, and it will also be announced across all of the AUGI social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Right. Do we have questions? Do we have time for questions?
We have time for questions. I'm pretty fast, so.
I have a quick question. Do you have any data on male versus female? And if you do, have you seen any differences?
Yes. There are charts specifically addressing the fact that men get paid, I think, about 12% more than women. And that has remained fairly steady over the years. It dipped down to its lowest point of a 9% difference during the last recession. I think specifically because the more male-dominated industries caused a lot of layoffs, and women tended to keep their jobs because they tend to work in safer industries. But yeah, that's a consistent difference that we see every year. I don't always include it in my charts because people like to argue with me, but it does exist. It's statistically significant. It's not going away. And there are also other factors, such as women tend to have higher levels of education than men, but they still have lower pay. And that's one of the reasons why I switched to a 40-hour work week for all of the statistics, because some of the guys were working a lot of overtime. So now I think the pay gap has shrunk a little bit when you cut it down just to a 40-hour work week, but it's still not gone away. It's still there.
Personally, I would be curious to see that discrepancy on the designer chart. Thank you very much.
I think it might be there as well. Education, yes. For the designer breakdown, I have overall salary, male average, female average. So, yeah, it's there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Are you going to take over now, Ish?
Okay, so if nobody else has questions, I can take it over, but I'll be pretty fast, typically, the way I am. So. Okay, so thanks, Melanie. If you have any questions, you can know what to reach Melanie. She's found on the Discord page and stuff, so, and you can find her around. So, guess with that being said, I guess I'm going to start on my part of sharing here. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully everybody can see my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see my screen? Everybody? Anybody?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So, that being said, I have everything good to go. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to remote in on a machine at the office because my machine took it down. So there you go. And I'm going to look in here and look at the data. I did a little bit of testing before just to make sure that everything works for the presentation. So I'm going to go back and do my stuff. Okay. I'm going to delete that one there. Come on, delete it. Because I want to look at the data. So I'm going to look in here. I'm going to start with Autocad because we like everybody, CAD user likes the Autocad. And look at some of the data, So right now here I have like 3 base paths, of which, 2 of the base paths are in ground coordinates, which means we're designing ground coordinates. One of them is the survey, and that survey to be the V side. So it's pretty much, it's a V survey side to side. So if you're familiar with the NCS naming scheme for disciplines, V stands for surveys and C stands for civil. So if you have an A dash, you'll be able to be an architectural. But coming from let's say this is the survey data. Now this survey data, when we received it, pretty much before I do stuff, there are two types of coordinates or scaling the way it's done in AutoCAD or with the survey. When the data is brought to ground coordinates, one of them it's done like typical. It's done at the centroid on the side, so each surveyor picks up a point, a control point on the side, where that the coordinate system, the coordinates in grid equals the coordinate in the ground. So the data is scaled around that point. Yeah. So if you pick a point here on the centroid on the side, and then you scale the data here, the data is more accurate in the center and less accurate outside. Because the scanning is done from the outside in. Now that's one way of to be done. Now, if you are one of those lucky people to receive that kind of data, then for your case, the GIS data or the grid data, we're gonna match your more or less the ground data. Yeah? Now, that's one of the cases. The second case is where the survey is done and it's scaled from 0, 0. Yeah. Now, assuming that the coordinate system here is stay plane, which takes the stay plane central zone, is for us in the area. You can see with the coordinate system that we have in here, we have somewhere in the range of 3 millions. Yeah. So the X, and the Y, the 0, 0 coordinates for this type, pretty much all this data, it's based on that scale, based on that coordinate system. That place, the data is placed, at this kind of distance away from 0, 0. Yeah. So when the scaling is done at 0, 0, that means the data in here, it moves to the scale factor on, let's say, moves on a direction from southwest towards northeast. Yeah, so if your X, Y, it's in here in the corner, in the corner here 0, 0. When you scale using a scale factor, the data moves on this way, on this direction. Yeah. So now those scale factors can be like, sometimes, unique to the projects. Like, for example, TechStack uses a unique one, but it's the same one across all the projects, while some other ones were calculated with very different values. Yeah. So how would I know that this CAD file, it's in a grid versus ground? Typically, you're going to look at the data that you receive from the server, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to turn on all the layers, and I'm going to look for some of the data. So let's see here. There you go. So if I go in here and fish for some of the control data, you're gonna see that I can come, somewhere in here, and it tells me all the data I see is scaled from 0, 0, and the scale factor that's used, it's this one. It's 1.00011. So that's the magic number that I need to know to bring the data from grid to ground. I'm gonna go in here, and I'm gonna go back to let's say like a layer state, and here I'm gonna restore a layer state of these are our custom layer states. Don't worry about what the layer state does for me. It pretty much sets my CAD file to have only specific layers on and off. Yeah. So because of it, I'm gonna look at the data now. Let's look at this data and see how it compares against like a grid data. Do we have it like in ground? Do we have it in grid? If I go here and you are assigning your an Autodesk account, if the CAD file has a coordinate system assigned to it, you're going to be able to go to the geolocation tab, and then under the online map, you can turn on here the map aerial. And by turning on the map aerial, you should be able to see like an aerial background. Now the aerial background, it's always in grid, yeah, because it's grid. So in here, you're going to see that my data in here, it doesn't align with the data in grid, yeah. So if I want, for the purposes in here, if I want, for example, to have this aerial, let's say if this one comes from a service, yeah. If I want this aerial to be aligned, with my data, how would I go about returning this specific CAD file? And to do so, I can go here, for example, I can go to Map Up for now. I'm going to go to the Tool Space, and on the Tool Space, I'm going to go to Settings, and then for my CAD file, I'm going to right-click on this one. It says Edit Drawing Settings. So I go to Edit Drawing Settings. I can see here under my grid or under my coordinate systems that is set up to stay plane, text 80 PCF. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to Transformation. I'm going to go to Transformation tab, and I'm going to see here Apply Transform Settings. By then, in here, I'm going to go here to say Computation, the grid scale factor. They're going to go in here to say I'm going to do it a user define, and the user define is going to define the scale factor. Now, how we define the scale factor? Now, this scale factor is the grid scale factor. It has to bring the data back to grid. So data it's in ground has to be brought to grid. That means in order for us to bring the data to grid, I have to use an inverse of the scale factor. So if my scale factor is, I'm going to go here calculator. I'm going to look at my calculator. So if the scale factor is 1.00011, so roughly zeros and 2 1s, that means the data to go back to grid has to use an inverse of that one. So it will be 1 divided by 1.00011, yeah. And that scale factor is going to be 0.99989, yeah, and whatever comes afterwards. Yeah.
Ishka,
Yeah.
can you put a proper fraction in that wizard box?
Where here?
Because I usually use a proper fraction whenever I actually do the scaling.
I put, 1.00011. Let's see if it takes it. If it takes it, it doesn't.
It won't do it with the point. You have to put 1 5 zeros over 1 0 0 0 1 1.
I'll check out. For now, just put for now it's like I know I can actually figure out the inverse right in my head because it's for every zeros that's a 9, and for stuff. So pretty much if you take this stuff and the inverse adds the A9, you're gonna give you a full 0 1 1 at the end. So I'm gonna just put for now. I'm gonna say 0.999 A9 because I know that's what the scale factor to the stop. Now this scale factor has to be applied to a specific location. A specific location is the reference point in here. Here I'm gonna put it here 0 0, so it means the grid and the locals were zeros, yeah. So I'm doing the scaling from 0 0. Now here the rotation angle I'm gonna put start to be 0 because there's no rotation applied, just the translation, scaling and translation. So it'll be like 0 0, and I'm gonna say here click OK. So pretty much on the bed 1. It's like nothing happens in here, the data still stays the same way, but when I go to my geolocation tab in here to map, and I say map aerial, you can see where my aerial comes in the right location, yeah. So it takes that transformation and applies it to here, yeah. Now this one applies only to this CAD file. So if I bring this CAD file somewhere else, I have to use the scale factor, to the CAD file to reference, yeah. So my purpose in here, if I go to I'm going to go back in here and take that one up. So I can show you how to do that one for this specific CAD file. I'm going to click OK. You can see that in here if I go back map off, and I'm going to come back map on, I'm going to see that, the stuff, is back to the original one. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to say map off, and I'm going to go and say how would I do about if I put attach, for example, a grid file in here. So I go here, I'm going to say an XREF, for example, I'm going to say XREF, and I'm going to attach in here, you're going to see that, I have this file, this is my VA site, this is my planimetric, grid data. See, I know it's a planimetric data. I'm going to see if I go here to map aerial, you're going to see that this one aligns with the aerial. I mean, because the stuff is still staying plain. So let's say I want to, reference the VA site in the V side. I'm going to go here to the X references. I'm going to say XREF. So if I go XREF in here, I'm going to attach in, go back to external references. I'm going to go here, attach to WG, and I'm going to go to my C drive, and I'm going to attach that data. So I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to attach the VA site. This is my planimetric file. Open. Now when I attach this stuff in here, I'm going to see that if I put to 0, 0, if I put let's say I'm going to attach it as an overlay 0, 0, you're going to see that it's upset. So my data should be coming here. Now I can go after the fact and type of scale, stuff. But typically, I like to do that one by doing it right, in the attach, in attach dialog box. I'm going to say XREF in here. I'm going to attach WG. If I go in here to the V side, because I know, so pretty much the question is always here, is I'm in a file. What type of file? Is it a grid or is it a ground? If it's a ground file, then I know that the V side is a grid file. When I attach it, I apply that scaling right when I attach it. Yeah. So I go in here and attach. I'm going to go here, select okay, it's overlay. Now I'm going to say here the uniform scale because it applies on those axes. And I know that I'm in a ground file and I want to attach a grid file. And to do so, I'm going to say here 1.00011 because I know it's from grid to ground. And click OK. And by doing so, the data one is attached. It's in the right location, and I'm good to go. Yeah. The opposite. The reverse happens in here. If I want to attach in here the survey, so I'm going to say XREF. If I go in here, attach the WG, I'm going to attach in here my V site. So I'm in a grid file. I'm attaching a ground file. When attaching the two of them, I have to apply the same kind of stuff. But here it's the other way. It's the reverse. Yeah. So it's B.999 A9. Yeah. So this how you deal with the data. Back and forth when you're attaching in between the CAD files. So you see the data comes to the right location. So here I'm going to go to external references. I'm going to detach some for now, and I'm going to get into the stuff that we came here for today. So I show you how the data works, and the biggest issue that people have is with this type of data. And the biggest issues with this stuff is how the data translates back to GIS, yeah. Because if I bring this stuff and I have something here open, do I have it open? Yes, I have it open. So in here you're gonna see that this is like a ArcMap, this is the ArcGIS Pro window open. In this one, if I go to the coordinate system for this one, you're going to see that it's state to state plane. So pretty much the same as in Autocad. And if I go in here and attach, let's say the survey, I'm going to go to attach the survey. And I'm going to attach expanding here. And that's the benefit of using ArcGIS Pro. The ArcGIS Pro works with the 2018 and newer file formats for CAD, Autocad, yeah. If you use still ArcMap, you'll not be able to load it on, or maybe unless you have a 10.7 or 10.18 or an ArcMap, yeah. But the city for us, the city we transition to ArcGIS Pro for the use. So I'm going to go here to polyline, and if I drag this stuff in here, I'm going to drag it in the left side. The data are going to come attached, and you're going to see that it comes attached, based on that coordinate system comes in the wrong place, yeah. Now, how would I go about this stuff, make sure that this data always shows up in the right way in the grid, yeah. So to this stuff at the end, you're going to see that you're going to define a custom coordinate system, or pseudo coordinate system, that you can apply it in ArcGIS, and they will always come in the right location. So I'm going to go in here for now. I'm going to say remove this off for now. I'm going to come back to it later, but let's go in here in Autocad. So in Autocad, this one is stay plain. Now how do I create a coordinate system for Autocad? But always it's like if I have to push data back in the shape file or some stuff, it uses the right stuff for the coordinate system. And when I do that one, it's pretty much it has to do with the map library. Yeah, so the coordinate system library. So I'm going to go here in the map coordinate system library. I'm going to say here map. So if I say map CS assign, you're going to see that in here I can assign coordinate system. And here I'm going to say you see how the text is 83CF. So I go here text is 83-CF. You're going to see that it finds it, but there's no way for me to modify it. Yeah. So for me, in order to create a new coordinate system, I have to make sure that I'm in a dialog or editor where I can actually add it. Yeah. but one is not in this dialog box, but one is in the map CS library. Yeah. So I can go here, map CS library, like that. So map coordinate system library. It pops out something similar to the previous box, but this one you're gonna see that here options for editing, assigning, and all that stuff. Now you cannot modify a stock coordinate system, yeah. So right in here, you're gonna see if I select in here text ADP, I can go with text ADP -cf. You're gonna see what I select this tab in here. You cannot, modify, so you cannot edit it. Yeah, what you can do is like you can create the, pretty much the idea here is that we try to keep it, the coordinate system the way it's defined, by default. Yeah, so what you're gonna do here, you can actually modify a copy of it, or you can create your own one. So to create one that applies to this, project specific one, like my SSRD project, I can go here. I'm gonna start the text ADP-CF, and I'm gonna say here duplicate. So I'm gonna duplicate back coordinate system. And now this one sometimes, depending on your CAD, and how powerful your stuff might be fast, might be slow, and how many files you have open. But in here, let's see if this one it takes a little bit. Yeah. So I'm gonna let it spin, wait, until it provides me the right dialog. So maybe now we can go, take a bathroom break, drink some coffee, or that kind of stuff. Till Autocad, finishes, here to access the data. So right here, let's see that I have a coordinate system. This is stay plane, and this one is a modify. And what I'm going to do here, gonna modify this one. Yeah. So I'm gonna go here, gonna go to edit. But now this one I can edit. Now I'm gonna wait another couple of minutes till it goes to the dialog box, depending. Now on this machine or remote machine, now it's might be a matter of having multiple files open. So if you try to modify this stuff, then maybe you might do it in a light version of your light session.
Iska, what version of CAD are you in?
This is 2020, but it's the same stuff applies to any version. Yeah. So you don't have to worry too much about it's the same coordinate system. You just modify one. And the benefit to this stuff is that once you have the coordinate system, like the ground coordinate system assigned to the CAD file, that coordinate system goes to the CAD file. So if you send back the CAD file somewhere to somebody else that does have that one, they will option to actually import it in the coordinate system database. The biggest issues I have with CAD and GIS is that they do not have identical databases. Maybe down the road we're gonna have a single database for CAD and GIS. But here, even if I define the state plane, the SV, the RGS doesn't know that this is state plane. So I still have to go there and make sure that I assign that one. Yeah. So for now, I'm going to just make this one. There you go. So I'm going to go here in the name. I'm going to put, text APCF, and I'm going to put here SSRD, Spice with Spring Zero. This is my stuff, and I'm going to go in the next step. So what I'm going to change is in this location. Yeah. And the only stuff that you have to, what you have to do in here, we're going to change here the projection from Lambda conformal conic to double standard parallel. We're going to change it in here to, I'm going to go above, and going to be here. It's Lambda conformal conic with a fine pulse processor. So pretty much you're going to modify it and add that scale factor somewhere, yeah? But the idea here is the following. If I say here, if you click on it, it's like you have changed the projection method. You may lose your projection parameters. So the idea is beyond continuous, no. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a copy of these parameters, because when I change to the other one, all this time will be 0. So in order to get one in here, I'm going to go here to a notepad, and let's see that what I did in here. I went and I copied each of these parameters. So the first, second, minus 100, 29, and then the false listing and the false loading. Yeah, so I put those ones in on here. So once those ones were copied, I can go safely. Gonna go in here. I'm gonna go and find processor. Say yes. Now everything becomes 0. So pretty much now I have to go back to your notepad, and in here start copy pasting. Yes, I can say control copy this one. I'm gonna put it here, paste. I'm gonna go in here, take this one in here, control C. I'm gonna copy paste in verb. Define. I'm gonna skip that one in verb. Now this one's we're looking at the way they're supposed. So pretty much you're supposed to copy in the first one, because the other one looks like that as we're supposed to be. So we're kept. 984250, that's good, yeah. So now it's what do you define the scale factor, yeah? You see here find 0 coefficient 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. And see which one is the one you're looking for. And the one you're looking for is the ones with the ones, yeah. So pretty much you can see this is the one I'm supposed to modify, and this is the one I'm supposed to modify. So here I'm going to put the 1.00011, and then I'm going to go here to say 1.00011. So pretty much I have it right there. Everything looks good, and I save here, click save. Right there, once this one is done and it's finishing about it, I have a new custom coordinate system assigned to my cat, or added to my library that can be used. And I guess the benefit of this stuff is if you export the data in a shapefile, you'll be able to bring it to RGS in the right location. Yeah. Like for example, if your RGS map is set up to stay plane, like the grid one, if you export the data from CAD to shapefile, the data are going to come in the right location. Yeah. And maybe we can test that on too, but I can see a close. Now I have a looks like a SSRD. I can see a close. No, do not do that. I just thanks. I just did that one. The benefit of clicking at the wrong time. Can I do an undo? No, because the data is in a different location.
So Ishka, what you were wanting to do is to create a coordinate system that'll scale to our ground survey coordinates, right?
So pretty much it's what we call them more or less like it's the modified. It's a pseudo like coordinate system. So I'm gonna go here, edit. I'm gonna say here, duplicate again. Hopefully this one will be faster. Like say delete. There's no undo. So pretty much you try to make a core system, but when it's assigned to the CAD file, any data that you bring, for example, in this CAD file, if I have to assign like an aerial imagery, like if you want to set an aerial imagery, that one it's in grid. Now that aerial imagery is going to come in the right place, yeah. If you try to import the shapefile that's in grid, yeah, that shapefile is going to be imported in the right location. Because the idea, before, the CAD file, so the CAD file, it's like, the coordinate system is stay plane, but, the CAD file, doesn't know about that scale factor, so when it brings the data, it brings it in the right location, for grid data, yeah. So I'm going to come in here, edit, again, fast, what that one is doing, that one. Maybe I'm going to try to define, come on, I have enough time anyway, 18 minutes. So the lesson number, do not rush to click on buttons, because you might do that, the same stuff that I did. Not to wait. And that's I guess the other thing is I'm mobile remote session. So.
Hey, Ishka, quick question.
Yeah.
Given how long it takes to, duplicate the coordinate system and then get back into the edit mode and stuff, why not just create one that's for the common scale factors in your area? Such as 10011 and 12 and 10.
You could do so, as long as the stuff. But I got so many surveys, for reviews that have all the one always varies. Sometimes you might have to do it per project. So maybe you can make one if that's the text is the text that uses the 1.0001 and stuff. Then you can use that one. And that looks like one of those coordinate systems, but the scale factors, but is typically it's typically what I find on lots of surveys. It's like we take the one as a default. Let's say you continue. So this will be Northern Peril. I'm gonna come in here, copy this one, Control C, paste in there, and then I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna Control C, like that, Control V, and then I'm gonna put 1.001. 1.011. There you go, and everything is done. I'm good on this stuff. Save. So it looks like 2 minutes, maybe a minute for every refresh. So might as well hopefully you have what's called multitasking. You can do other things at the same time while waiting on this stuff to do. Okay, should be done shortly. Now this one works, like in Autocad because you have you have this option to say Lambert conform mechanical affine post processor. Yeah, so pretty much by the rest stuff you still kept the origin, the latitude, longitude, the false listing and ordering, and you just apply this factor. So I say close, and I'm gonna make C to make sure that I say close, not delete. There you go. So I'm gonna go here map CS assign. So I'm gonna say assign a coordinate system, and I'm gonna change the stuff. Since I know this is ground, I'm gonna say here Texas 80p. CF, and I select SSRT, so this time I say this assign it. Yeah. Now see, as soon as I assign it, the stuff moves south. It didn't move the data didn't move in the CAD file. It just the data. So now if I go here to let's say map area, you're gonna see where the data comes in right there. So I didn't have to do any transformation in the Bing area imaging or stuff. Now if I go in here, I'm gonna say maybe a map off. I'm gonna go in here. Let's do a testing here to see if data comes the right way in a shape file. Yeah, so I'm gonna say maybe I'm gonna take in here only the edge of the roadway. I'm gonna take this step in here. I'm gonna save here maybe. Let me see what wash they're using here. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save maybe this. And see the two of them. I'm gonna isolate those two layers. Let's isolate this one. Okay. So now I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna say select similar maybe. I'm gonna say this one here. Select similar. Just I'm trying to see if the shape was. I'm gonna say here map export, and I'm gonna see to test it out. So map export. I have this the edge of the roadway. Looks like my region does for every command. Okay, so I'm gonna come in here. Should be a shape file. So I'm gonna go to the C drive. I'm gonna put in the data. So if you I'm gonna put it as a V road, pretty much roadway. Click OK. And I'm gonna say this should be lines. I'm gonna say select manually. I'm gonna say here right click to use the previous selected. I'm gonna say option here. We don't have to do any conversion. Also be here data. Don't do anything like that. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna say click OK. Data is export. Now I'm gonna go back to we are done in CAD. Yeah, so pretty much this how you do in CAD. This how you define a custom coding system. Now in here I'm gonna go to the data. I'm gonna say here refresh because I'm already connected to that one. I show a V-road, so if I take this road, the V-road in here, it comes still in the wrong place, because it doesn't know about backward system. Yeah, so even if I put the 20 core system, this one doesn't know about it, and it still puts it at that location. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna do the following. Pretty much, it's that's what I'm typically doing with stuff. I'm defining the same core system in SV in ArcGIS. So to do that one is it's the same idea. Pretty much you start with a state plane coordinate system, and then you duplicate it and you multiply something to it to make sure that it applies that data. So to that one, I'm gonna go to the map. I'm gonna say properties. Go the same idea. I'm gonna find the state plane which already assigned to my map. I'm gonna right click on this. I'm gonna say here copy and modify. Now in here everything is much faster. Yeah. Now here you don't have an AFIN processor. So here what you are supposed to do in here, you have here you have all this data. There's no place in here to put your scale factor. So the way it's done in here is the following. What you're gonna do here, you're gonna scale the easting and northing by a scale factor. Yeah? So what you're gonna do here is you're moving the data the X and Y, you're gonna move it by with scale factor. Yeah? So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna show you how that one is done. I'm gonna take the fast easting and fast northing, and I have those ones right in here. So I copied those ones. So I'm gonna take this together, and I'm gonna scale them by that scale factor. So I'm gonna say Control C. I'm gonna go to my calculator. I'm gonna go here and go C, and I put here Control V, and I'm gonna take here times. Where's my times? I'm gonna put 1.00011. Click enter. So this will give me a new value in here. I'm gonna say copy this one, Control C. I'm gonna put this stuff in here below, and then I'm gonna remove in here the commas. There we go. I'm gonna take the same one, this stuff, Control C. I'm gonna copy that one. I'm gonna put in here, put the C. Control V, and I'm gonna multiply this one by the same scale factor. So it'll be 1.00011. Click enter. So I'm gonna have this new value. So I'm gonna say here Control C. I'm gonna put it below, and I'm gonna remove in here the commas, because this is the one I'm supposed to push back. So I'm going to minimize here. I'm going to copy these new values. I'm going to say Control C. I'm going to go here to here, and base for positive, I'm going to say put the new value in. And then for the new one in here, I'm going to copy this one. Control C. Oh, Control Z, Control C. I'm going to put in here right there. So we put in the two values right in there, and then in here we say the scale factor. This we're going to put in the new scale factor. So we put those ones, the new values, and also put the scale factor that's applied. Yeah. So it's this, and those ones. So those are the only things you are supposed to change. Yeah. The false listing, false noding, and the scale factor, and click save. I mean, you can do not save. You know, go up here the corner and pretty much modify it to say whatever it's supposed to be, because otherwise it's one. So I'll put here SSRD, and I click here save. So you see, like, I have this stuff in here. I have this scale factor. Click OK. And you see the data, nothing kind of modified here. But now if I bring in here the C side, so pretty much I'm going to bring it here the B side. Let's bring the polylines from the B side. I'm going to bring this one to here. And I'm going to see that all the data comes in the right location. Yeah. Even though it says unknown coordinate system and stuff, it comes in the right location. Yeah. So if I go in here to take the C side, this is my proposed, design. You're gonna see that the proposed design is also in gray, it's in ground, and I have the proposed, the existing, and then if I have in here, I have the VA side. Now this one is stay plain, so because it's grid, you'll have to define coordinate system. So I go in here and I'm gonna attach this up in here. You're gonna see this one comes offset this way. Yeah. But any data that you're going to see right in there, it's all you have with the data. They're going to take it away and turn off. Where's my C side in here? Did I bring it in? There's the C side. I'm on this side. No, it takes a while to bring all that data. So the idea is like, by defining a coordinate system to the defining coordinate system, in ArcGIS, let me go in here. I'm going to remove all this B side. Let's see here. There you go. So now if I have to bring any data, so for example, right now I have only the data for let's say I have the CAD files, I have the aerial. Let me bring in here maybe another shape file that it's in grid. Yeah. So I'm gonna go here to databases. Maybe hold on, let me see if I have anything in here that I can use. I'm gonna go to base maps. Do I have anything in here? Quick buffer easements, maybe TCAD, let me see, casting water, maybe quick buffer, so quick send lines. So let's bring the quick send lines. So this is the shape file, or this is the SD. Should take a little bit, but once you attach any data that's in grid, you're gonna come into the right location. Yeah. So pretty much in here is like the map is defined to ground coordinate system, and any data that you attach in there is going to come in the right location for that one. I don't know, it's here. Do I have it? But it's still spinning. And you see in here. The selected layer is not valid. Sorry. Okay, my stuff falling here. A bit. My stuff. Let me see, can I bring, okay, let me go to my City of Boston database in here. GIS Pro, I'm going to bring it to my SD. Fair to access okay because, something's not connected. Oh, goodness, I hate stuff. When stuff happens, do I have anything in here? Okay, can I put anything here? Okay, let me see here. Okay, I have still a bit of time left. So what I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to bring another shape file, but since it's in grid, even though I could have created one maybe from from the CAD file. But it takes a while. Okay, can I connect to this one at the same time? Okay, I want to open this stuff. Go ahead. have anything here that I could add? I could add something. Floodplain. I want to see something that actually works, for. Let's see, add to a project. How do you connect with this one? Connection properties. Okay, fix it like this. There we go. Connect. Delete the issue beginning. Like duplicating stuff. No. Okay. Let me do it, maybe the faster way to kind of get stuff. I'm going in the VA side. I'm gonna take in here and maybe take some of this data and export it because I can export it in grid. So select similar. I'm gonna say map export, and I'm gonna put this stuff. I guess VA dash road. There we go. This is state plane. So I'm gonna say here lines. I'm gonna say here set it manually. Right click in here because they're already selected. Options. There's nothing there. If I look at here state plane, so that's good. So if I go back to my ArcGIS Pro, I'm still going back to my folders in here in data. Refresh. So I have the VAO, then I take this stuff and drag it. You're gonna see that the data in grid aligns with the data from my ground. Yeah. So my map is in ground. It has its own coordinate system assigned to it. That's ground, and any grid data that's attached comes to the right location. Yeah. And the finger is here. Like let's say if I have the data in grid and I have to to apply the data in ground, I can do the following. So I'm gonna go here and yeah, if you send to the users, let's say to a GIS user, you send them the CAD file. I'm gonna say here no. I don't want to say this. I'm gonna send to a GIS user. I'm gonna send the C side, my proposed data. And he has it, he doesn't have an idea of my coordinate system. I mean, once he has the coordinate system and he wants to work in grid, I can go in here. Let me go. I'm going to be a road. I'm going to remove all this stuff in here and just leave the C side. I'm going to say here, remove. You're going to see here, nice about it is if you have a stuff with an alignment, it knows what's an alignment. It's a simple alignment. So there's a nice benefit in here of using it. Remove. Okay, I'm going to say remove. So the road, I'm going to go here to the map. I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to go to favorites, and I'll put it on back to grid. So grid stays here. Let me go in here to the C side, and I'm going to touch in here the power lines. So I'm going to put the power lines in here. Now, of course, we're coming to wrong location, so I'm going to go here to data. Let's say click on here to view the details. So I'm going to go to geoprocessing tools for this one. Maybe can do this stuff. Where are you? Analysis, maybe. Tools. So I'm going to go here to Reef Project, or projection or define projection. Okay, I don't like this stuff here. Toolboxes are going to data management tools. I hate to find them. So be like general. Not general. Where are you? Projections. Projection transformation. That's the one. So I'm going to say here define projection. So it's like define projection. And ask you here for which object you want to define projection, for which category of data. Takes a little bit. It takes a bit more. Maybe this is my first time after water running the geoprocessing tools. Okay, so input data here. I'm going to do this for my SSRD polyline group. And say coordinate system, I'm going to go in here and find, let me see, can I find in here in the list? Can I find my new one? So it'll be like SSRD. Can I find it? Enter. Maybe I was supposed to save it. Didn't I save it? So it'd be like Faqs 4203. Stay plain. Did I make one there? Maybe I didn't save it, so there is like, there you go. Ah, goodness. Let me see custom here. Did I do this stuff here? What else am I supposed to do with that? The idea is like, you can have custom, so I'm gonna say, finding here, because I said SRD. It's nothing. Oh, goodness. I'll take this one. Let me define it fast. I'll take this down. I'm going to say here. I'm going to say copy modify. So I'm going to come in here. Let me go in here. So I have in here this one. 229. Oh, I guess I copied that one. Pass. So I'm going to copy this one, Control C. Maybe I'm supposed to save it. So I'm going to put it like that. Oh, I didn't copy it. Control C this stuff. I'm going to put it in here. And then in here, I'm going to copy this one. Control C, I'm going to put it in here. And then here, 1.0, 1.00011. And click, I'm going to put this stuff. Let me see here. SRD, maybe we have to save it afterwards. Like this, save. And I think here this stuff, save as a projection file maybe. Favorites, and this is like, SRD maybe for me, save, there we go. So I save the projection, so I have a PRJ file for it, that defines this stuff. And I have it in my favorites bar, click OK. Let's go back, to do it, the other fashion way. So I'm going to go here, going to go back to stay plane. There you go. Okay, the data comes to run location. I'm going to come here in the drop down. I'm going to go here and find, my custom one. So it'll be like this one. So I'm going to click OK. Did I create it? I pull that one. I don't know why it takes it. Doesn't take it. Like it doesn't populate it in the list. Or maybe I have to do more testing. Define projection now, it's failed. Let me go in here, do it this way. So I'm going to come in here, do that one, apply to the map. Maybe because, there's no way for me to select that one. Like there, I'm going to come in here and say, like, I want to run it from the current map. So here, run. View details. I don't know what happens. We're going to test it out later. Define projections. So I cannot do that one there. Yeah. The idea is like, here looks like you'll have to know the map, to have it define it, and I'll do a little bit more testing and come up, later with, maybe specific stuff. But at least, you figure out how to define here your custom coordinate system to the map, yeah. So by doing that one, but any data that you add to it, will be projected on the fly in the right location based on that data. I'll do a bit more testing and figure out what, what's up maybe for today, but that's all that I had for today. Hopefully it makes sense. Any questions there? Let me see chat window. Okay, that's good. Nothing there. Any questions?
Thanks, Isha.
Yeah.
I noticed that you cannot put a proper fraction into the transformations. Yeah. So I usually use a proper fraction, for example, 1 5 zeros divided by 1, the 3 zeros and 1 1. I do my scaling of individual data sets.
Yeah. So typically the one, if you do like the way I look at it is like maybe the calculator, and that one works sometimes for specific like fields in CAD. But I don't think it works for that one where it's actually we are supposed to type it in. So. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna pause with the recording, and if you want to come back, to define. So pretty much the idea, just the short version. In Autocad, you have to define and you have to define a custom one with an affine transformation that's for stapling, for Austin, whatever, for Texas and stuff. Now it might be a bit different for like a UTM type of coordinate system, but so that's in CAD. In ArcGIS, you have to define it by modifying the false system, false loading of the coordinate system by applying vascular factor on those values and putting the new values in a new coordinate system file. But when you can get the PRJ file, that you can use it. So if I brought new data there, I bet I could use that one there. So if I come in here, let me see if it's actually possible. And since some people are still here, I'm going to go here to the catalog and I'm going to use in here my VLOAD. There was the one, it was the GIS, no, it was the VA. I'm going to put here my VLOAD. So when I bring my VLOAD, you're going to ask me, you're going to tell me where the data is not in the location. Or it tells me it's in a location right now because I have the coordinate system now. If I put stuff in grid, so here, click OK. Now the data comes, goes nuts, but now I have the data, the shapefile. What's my shapefile here? I have the VLOAD. So the VLOAD, I say remove this one. I want the VLOAD. So the VLOAD is going to be in the same location of as the seaside, like there. So let's say if this is a shapefile and I have to define to define the stuff for it. I define projections. I'm gonna take in here my VLOAD. I'm gonna come in here and look for the PRJ file, maybe favorites. I'm gonna take this one and click OK. I don't know why it doesn't take it. Maybe I'll do some investigation. But you're gonna see that I don't have. So pretty much I have a custom one, but it looks like it doesn't want to take it unless I can load it. Special filter. Cannot do it from a file. No, I guess go for a system. See data. Nothing there. So yeah, so it is it's supposed to be done by I'm gonna do a little bit of testing, figure out if that's the case, and then we're gonna see for the time. But here I'm gonna should be able to do this to run it. Right where it did it, it says it's unknown, but the data, it comes in the right location. Yeah. So I redefine it with the SSRD, that coordinate system. Okay, it's the VLOAD. Yeah, it's right now it's in the right location. So you see the time coordinate, everything looks nice now. I have to figure out why it says unknown because it should not say unknown, but yeah, that's another thing. Okay. Thanks guys for attending today. I'm gonna post the recording, hopefully record it the right way. We're gonna post it and you can come back to it as a reference for stuff. And thanks Melanie for being here, and hope you guys have a good Friday and I guess a long extended weekend for some people.
Thank you, Ishka, and thanks for inviting Melanie. It was a good session today.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.